Hello, everybody, and welcome to our August 2024 astrology forecast. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by our highly esteemed faculty member and my favorite astrologer in the Southern Hemisphere, Shu Yap. So, thank you so much for joining us today, and how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Helen. And that's a big call. Probably because you don't know many people in the Southern Hemisphere, but hopefully we might change that. There are plenty of amazing astrologers here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, at the beginning of this video, we're going to be talking about the astrological weather for each week in August. And as we get deeper into the video, we'll be talking about each rising sign and what might be coming up for you. And you can see those timestamps at the bottom of the video. But of course, we'd love for you to stay with us as we talk about the astrological weather for the first couple of weeks. So, jumping into week one, what stands out for you, Shu?
Well, the new moon in Leo, I think that's a very special new moon because this is the first new moon that we've had in Leo, which will have Pluto in the opposition sign. So that kind of brings into play like a whole new dimension of Leo. I think Leo seasons for the next 20 years will now have a Pluto opposition. So it will reveal a lot of probably the more shadowy, unconscious sides of our Leo friends. I think Leo friends are going to be getting deeper and delving more into the unknown over the next 20-year period. But this new moon kind of marks its, I guess, opening of a new cycle. It's a bit of a reset and it feels like a new introduction to our Leo lions, all scattered around the world. To a degree, perhaps with the Pluto opposition to the new moon, it might seem like the enthusiasm or the optimism that we know of the Leo sign might be toned down a little bit, but it might make this season moving forward a deeper, richer experience. And so Venus entering Virgo at the same time kind of combines the symbology there. Venus, the planet of joy, of love and beauty and good times, is now moving into that hardworking sign of Virgo, which naturally causes a bit of a incongruous position there for Venus. However, it's changing times, and I think this new moon is opening up a new dimension of our experience of the karmic wheel of Leo that we're used to.
I love that explanation. And speaking about Venus, I feel like August has that Venusian feel. There's so much going on with Venus as we go through the months. Now, if I'm tying this into the United States and what's being going on politically, of course, the excitement for women around the country that there might be a possibility of a female president come November. And I'm just thinking of, August 2nd, we've got the Venus square Uranus, like the tension here between, maybe female independence or striking out. If we look back in the last week, we've had record numbers of women coming together on Zoom. I think they broke Zoom in terms of all coming together and speaking about, reproductive health, reproductive rights. So I think Venus is going to be very strong, especially in the US as we go through August. And as you mentioned, as we go into mutable Earth, we go into a Mercury ruled sign. I wonder if the Venus going from fixed fire, from this party, we're all having a good time, into more of the cleanup committee. And if you're talking about women coming together and organizing, going into Virgo, maybe this is a time where we say, we've had the excitement, we've had the dance in the fixed fire. Maybe now we come together and we organize. How do we put this enthusiasm and energy together and organize plans to get people either to register to vote or join organizations and groups? And that's kind of the general feel I'm getting for especially week one.
Yeah, totally. And all that Virgo activity with Mercury will be joining Venus for a little bit before it moves back into Leo. To me, that's usually a very playful, happy, creative conjunction of Mercury and Venus. But being in the sign of Virgo, I can see a lot of potential in being able to use that fun and playfulness towards something really productive or of service, charitable, where Venus can actually do the work and actually enjoy the work, most importantly.
I love that. I love that description. So what are your thoughts? Of course, the big one, August 5th, is going to be Mercury retrograding. So what are your general thoughts?
Mercury will be in the process of finishing its cycle and then starting a new cycle, in a couple of weeks in Leo. And so this year, all the Mercury cycles have started in all the fire signs. So we had the April Aries Mercury cycle, which we're closing up now. So as this Mercury retrograde is dropping on the 5th of August, we're tidying up and reviewing and closing the gates on whatever was started in April. Remember the big eclipses then, all the big stuff happening in the sign of Aries. Whatever was initiated then, we're bringing to a close and tying up the loose ends and preparing for the new cycle starting in Leo. Is it next week or the week after, which we'll talk about. And so I think the big thing with Mercury this week, in the first week of August, is that it's really about using your mental faculty, your ability to be very highly productive and rational and logical and technical to start to close up this cycle, to think about whatever was started in April. We're now probably getting a little bit tired of it, or it needs some new fresh ideas injected into it. So perhaps it's time to start thinking about, what these new fresh ideas are. And that might require you to kind of retreat a little bit, to, maybe like close down yourself, or like bury yourself in the work to be able to come up with a new idea.
I like the key word there of revisiting. So all the words: revisiting, reviewing, rereading. So if you've any old books you've had on the shelf for a while that you like to go back to, I always love Mercury retrograde to go back and pick up my old favorites and go back through. But I love all the key statements that you make in there. And of course, everything else that applies with Mercury retrograde. If you're still on vacation or you're traveling this week, just double checking your itinerary, double checking everything that you're doing as you go out on your travels, whether that's long distance or short distance. But yeah, as we go into the rest of August.
Yeah, well, the other thing I would add too is that at this stage, this first week, Mars will be conjunct Aldebaran, which is a fixed star. And Aldebaran used to be the royal star that symbolized the beginning of the new year. So I feel like we've got some a week of kind of like resets happening with the new moon. We're resetting our frame of mind with the Mercury going retrograde, and then Mars conjuncting Aldebaran, which could bring in some stresses or, I wouldn't say catastrophes, like, that's very dramatic, but Aldebaran was connected to themes of the military and war and success around those topics. It used to also be considered an indicator of floods and shipwrecks or catastrophe by weather conditions. And it's interesting to note that when Aldebaran makes its heliacal rise, whatever weather was happening at that time was the indication of how much rain would be getting for that year. So that's definitely something I might look for. That won't be happening this week, but it's more like the idea of Aldebaran, and Mars is going to be activating that. So it'd just be interesting to see what comes about that, given that last month we saw Mars activating Algol, and that brought about such huge events like, the Trump assassination, the Microsoft thingy, and the Israel-Gaza attacks. So I think it would be just good to observe, and this is happening all around that new moon and Mercury retrograde. So there could be some tense times or some inconvenience associated with that August 4th, 5th dates. So just be prepared for it.
Everyone keep that in mind. It's funny thinking back to the July forecast we were talking, I think, was it week 3, and talking about if you're trying to travel or go around, just be extra careful. And as you mentioned, all the systems went down and everyone's stuck at airports. So what you're saying, Shu, is to keep an eye out as well for this.
Yeah, totally.
Well, maybe on a lighter note, as we get to Wednesday, August 7th, we've got Sun sextile Jupiter. Mercury junk Venus. So if you want to get a midweek, get out of work and have a nice fun day, we've got the Sun and Jupiter in an external polarity. So this might be a good get out in midweek, work week, and get out and have some fun.
That's right. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, into week 2, what stands out for you, Shu?
Well, week 2, I've been eyeing off week 2 of August for a while, actually, because we have a huge mutable activation happening. Essentially, all of the benefics and all of the malefic planets are coming together in squares and oppositions. And the Mars conjunct Jupiter in Gemini is one of the major ones, right? As well, later on, the Jupiter square Saturn. But in this second week, we've got Mars conjunct Jupiter and whilst squaring Saturn. Now, a Mars conjunct Jupiter is, to me, very activating, entrepreneurial. There's a lot of initiating forces and lots of dynamic energy. However, that energy is not very sustainable. And this is, I feel, the first time Jupiter being in Gemini is really getting activated. It's kind of been floating into Gemini, and it's been rather gentle so far. This is kind of like putting a big rocket behind Jupiter. So I feel this could be put to good use if you've got something to launch, or like a entrepreneurial pursuit that has been stagnant for a little bit. You could use this energy to push through, but just know that it's very unsustainable and that it will fizzle out quickly. And that Mars Jupiter can also show sometimes taking on too much, an overconfidence and over exaggeration in things. So just be mindful. This conjunction could go either way, and Mars will be co-present with Jupiter the whole month of August. So whilst it is a very dynamic and active month, especially for the mutable folks out there, you've got to learn how to stay grounded and conserve your energy, because it could be quite overwhelming otherwise.
I like what you're saying about that, maybe over exuberance. On the positive end, as you're saying before, might be a great time for big, bold plans, but maybe if it gets too out of hand or the hubris kicks in, because as we get into the next day, we have that Mars square Saturn. So with the Mars and Jupiter, that's probably, the foot on the gas at full pedal. And as Mars squares Saturn, that's hitting the brakes. So maybe you'll find out very quickly, as you said, as it fizzles out, it might fizzle out very quickly and those brakes might hold you in place. So I really like what you're saying about that.
Absolutely. It's that double whammy of push and pull, isn't it? Because Jupiter, Saturn have that contraction, expansion notion, and Mars square Saturn definitely is that, accelerator brakes concept. So you may feel that indecision. It is in the sign of Gemini, this Mars Jupiter conjunction. So I'm feeling like the tensions of all this energy could result in just an overactive mind, or a mind that gets obsessively fixated on something and causing just a level of ungroundedness. So be good to, get yourself out into the fresh air, like give that Gemini energy some space to be its Gemini, because there's lots happening there.
I love what you're saying about maybe taking that energy in a healthy and esteemed way by going outside, maybe pushing that off, maybe going to the gym or going for a walk through the park, rather than, we've seen a lot of keyboard warriors lately online, and especially if the politics is in the air, there's a lot of people banging on the keyboards, as you said, with the mind Mercury ruled as well. So maybe going out, smell the roses, have a walk. I like what you're saying there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Watch your adrenals, too much caffeine, and, just learn to just really be mindful of what the body is doing, because when planets are activating these air signs like Gemini, there is such a disconnect with the body. The mind kind of takes over, and then the body pays for it later, which it will when we start to get back into the fixed activation later on this month. With Mercury already starting at this week, Mercury entering back to Leo. This is reactivating a whole heap of stuff that's been happening in Leo. Leo has been quite a big area of intensity for this year, and Mercury shifting back into Leo is going to reactivate all of the stuff that's been happening in Taurus and all of the Pluto stuff. So yeah, it's a big week, I think, week 2.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, switching into week 3, what stands out for you?
This is the congregation of the benefics and malefics, like starting to come together. One of the big things I find is the Jupiter square Saturn. If you cast your minds back to the end of 2020, when we had the Jupiter Saturn conjunction in the new air triplicity signs of Aquarius, that was a big moment in the world and in astrology. And it's this August 19th day will be the first time Jupiter and Saturn will be squared, like making their first square. It's a significant milestone in that cycle. So thinking back to what you were doing at the end of 2020, this is August 19th will be that time of material reckoning, like it's the first signs of success or like some kind of tangible structures being built around that vision that you had. And the Saturn Jupiter square it's actually going to happen 3 times. So this August 19th date is an opening of a new story that's happening with this Jupiter Saturn square. So August this year, December the 25th, 2024, so this year Christmas Day, as well as June 2025 will be the 3 Jupiter Saturn squares. And I think this, whatever is it, 10-month phase that we're beginning is going to be really important. It'll say something about building your foundations and structures and the way you're going to bring about the vision that you had intended for that began at the end of 2020.
I love that. And we're going back to August 18th. We've got the Venus in the T square with that Jupiter Saturn. What are your thoughts on August 18th for that?
Yeah, so Venus is part of the picture here. It's interesting that the 2 benefics that are involved in this configuration are not in their strong signs. So this shows that perhaps some of the themes of unity and cooperation and joy might be diminished or might need to be seeked out in different ways. But the square to Venus and Jupiter could bring about just, maybe being too demanding or wanting too much, having too great of expectations that might lead to, disappointments possibly. The opposition from Venus to Saturn will Venus to Saturn will certainly, tell us quickly, to scale back our desires, to try and be more sustainable in our wishes going forward. So it's interesting though that, without pulling back out and looking at the big configurations of the 2 benefics and malefics together, this is a big time of development that's happening for us all, like in the world, but also in our personal lives. And we'll go into each of the signs as to where this development might be occurring. I don't think it's a good or bad thing. It's just that we're all building something internally, and this is the month that it really gets activated. So
Do you think it helps the benefics with the Venus and Jupiter, with Saturn in Pisces, Venus taking its exaltation and Jupiter its domicile? Do you think that helps the benefics in any way in this configuration?
yeah, totally. Like there's different levels of support happening all around. So I think, they're all kind of coming together to sort out something in some ways. And, in any kind of working meeting, you're going to get disagreements. You're going to get people not seeing eye to eye, but at least we're all at the same table talking about it. And I think that's really important. And so I think that's a good energy to bring into August, because there is cooperation to a degree. There's energy, there's dynamic structures that's wanting to be built. So yeah, I think overall, if you play your cards right, week 2 and 3 could be the weeks that, you may start to manifest something.
I love that. I love that. So as we get to August 22nd, we're going to have the Sun moving into Virgo and also the Venus square Mars. So I have the feeling with this, like the party's over. As the Sun goes into Virgo, we've got Venus there as well. It's the cleanup committee after the party. And I have a feeling with the Venus square Mars, if you've had that summer fling, this might be the time where it separates. So I've got a feeling there might be a few breakups around this time. What are your thoughts as the Sun enters Virgo?
Yeah, totally. You can see there's definitely a cutoff by that second week. There's a second half of the month for sure. I guess that's also activated by that Aquarius full moon, which happens to be directly squared to all of that triple conjunction that we had with Mars, Uranus, and Algol last month. That full moon is kind of falling right bang to a square to that Uranus. So I see this as kind of all of this fixed energy of the last month is going to be reoccurring. On top of that, there's this cazimi that's happening, the Mercury cazimi that's happening with that lunation and that Sun square to Uranus. It seems like it's very much a different half to the second half of August, and that we could, like you said, be seeing a shift in energy, like a shift in all this enthusiasm or dynamic enterprise, move into more like the solid, we're now rolling our sleeves up and doing the hard work of what we had intended to do earlier that month, for sure.
I love that. Absolutely love it. Okay, and then we get into our final week. What are your thoughts?
Okay, well, the final week, I guess the biggest thing to me is that Mercury is moving forward at that 21st degree of Leo. And this is where we see these, the next, well, we saw it last week with the cazimi, but the new cycle really starting to manifest, the new cycle of Mercury in Leo. This is indicating a 4-month journey that we have of this Mercury cycle. So if you can think of something that is Mercury related, especially Mercury and Leo related in your chart, that can see you out this next 4 months, it's a good way, it's a good time to elect to start something of that nature. So Mercury moving direct might see more momentum come into your life in those areas. And yeah, at the same time, we've got Venus moving into Libra, her own sign. So, I feel like this could be a shift towards a more positive outlook after having a bit of a dip in the last week.
Absolutely. And I'm just looking at August 27th. So we had the Venus earlier in the weeks squaring Uranus, and now we're trining Uranus. So in the square, if we were on a more personal level, trying to get out of a rut and breaking through independence, maybe this is a time where there's opportunity for excitement as we go into the 28th. If you're still on vacation, I think that's a great day with the Venus opposite Neptune. Maybe to go to a museum, or if that's a beach day, or be near the water, something artistic maybe. In terms of relationships, maybe watch out for some illusions or disillusionment around that time, maybe on a more personal level. Yeah, I love the Venus going into a domicile, getting some strength on the 29th. It's going to be a very interesting August.
Absolutely. I think Venus in Libra, I know that it's that sort of energy where you want to stay within, the consensus, socially acceptable areas and themes of life. But with that, all this extra outer personal planet activity in Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, I think it's time for Venus to get a little bit more experimental, to go outside of the box a little bit, and maybe start enjoying yourself in different ways than what you're used to.
I love that. Absolutely wonderful. Well, thank you, Shu, for going through the cap of August. Now let's go into our rising signs. So going in for our Aries Rising friends, Shu, what are your thoughts for our Aries Rising friends for August?
Right, Aries Rising friends. Let's see. Well, we've got a very busy mental month, I feel, because that mutable activation where all the benefics and malefics are kind of congregating together in that T square will be focusing on that third house, of the mind, of the busy everyday life. And so I would, suggest for the Aries rising people to try and stay as grounded as possible. Try and be active in ways that are very intentional, so that that energy doesn't get left over for worrying about things and being too anxious and overthinking things. So that's one activation. There's a lot of potential for circling, in the mind, and potentially being unproductive as a result. So if you can, try and channel that mental energy into something that's really valuable for you, like whether it's problem solving or getting to the bottom of something that requires a lot of rational thought, or mind energy, basically. So that's what I see for Aries, and that we could channel our energy here, where the Sun and Mercury will eventually congregate into that fifth house area of your own expression, a sense of who you are, maybe your children. It's a good time to think about what your 4-month project is in those areas of children, creative energy, because this is starting a new Mercury cycle there, and it's part of your own personal development for your year to come closer to your understanding of who you are as a person, what you stand for, your identity, and that kind of thing. But overall, I think the Aries folks, may have been subjected to a bit of confusion this year, with Neptune, Saturn, in the 12th house from their rising sign. So, it's a time to really not get caught up in the illusions and disappointments as well, especially with all of that Pisces stuff squaring Jupiter, Mars in Gemini.
Wonderful advice. And I love what you're saying about maybe the over mental activity that might be going on for you, Aries rising. And if you can switch or take some of that energy, as she was saying, and maybe some of those creative projects, projects at home, or, working with children or having fun, I think that's going to be a great break for maybe some of that mental activity. Because not only we've got some entertainment and creativity here, but I've got the vibes of back to work for Aries rising. We've got some of these planets, of course. Mercury is going to turn retrograde, go back into the 5th. We're going to have Venus going through the 6th. And then obviously we've got your chart ruler, we've got the Jupiter in the 3rd house. So if you're working from home, for example, maybe there's a lot of emails, a lot of work that you're trying to catch up with. If you can take a break and get into those activities and some of those creative pleasures, that might be a breakthrough for you. Because as you see with the planets here transiting, we've got a preponderance of planets below the horizon. So really a lot of the activity is in your private life and personal sector for you, Aries rising. So as she was saying, absolutely love that advice. With Chiron going through the 1st, depending where your ascendant angle is, maybe there's maybe being self-conscious at times. And she was mentioning some of those maybe difficult parts as well that's been going on for you. But me, North Node going through the 1st house, you do you. That's my key phrase. But, North Node, 1st house, you do you. Keep going.
That's a great way of putting it, yeah. And I'm sure the Aries rising would agree and wouldn't care what anyone thought about me
exactly.
doing me.
They're going to do them anyway.
Totally. So it could be a big new enterprise, a project that's starting. Jupiter, Mars is going to bring in a lot of energy to do you, essentially, whatever it is, whether it's a new health regime or a new image, like makeover type thing, or in some way just recreating oneself could be on the cards.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Okay, into our Taurus rising friends. Shu, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, some of the key words I thought is work-life balance, because we've got that activation of the 2nd, 11th, and 5th house there with all the benefics and malefics. And the key point is, like, focusing on, how we earn money and our livelihood and our jobs, and maybe contemplating how much is that actually part of your future, and how much is that balancing what you want to do and what's demanded of you in the outside world. And so bringing that all together, I thought, this could be a good month to start something or think about how you might bring in more balance in your life, that's sustainable moving forward, that speaks to your passions as well as your need to maybe contribute to the world, but also at the same time being reimbursed for it, being able to support yourself. So I saw that as a big theme for our Taurus Rising friends, and maybe that might be brought about by some pressures in your job or financial pressures and things that could be creating tensions there. However, with all the Leo stuff happening in your fourth house, this is a good time to think of some kind of 4-month project that can initiate this month to do with really getting yourself sorted from a foundational level, but your roots, your home, your housing, your own inner personal relationship with yourself, like inner emotions, family support, whatever it is that fourth house means for you. It's a good month to really channel your excessive mental energy towards, I feel, in this month. And then with Venus, it will eventually move into your fifth house and spend most of August in your fifth house. And this is a great place for Venus to be in. So it may be that you are finding your the work that you do fun and enjoyable, or maybe you might be having some extra social leisure activities that might be tapping into your memory of like, oh, this is what life is all about, like being spontaneous, tapping into, what you find is fulfilling to you. And this can all feed into your decisions about, what you're doing for work and how you want to contribute in life. So play with this whole idea of work-life balance, responsibility, passion balance as well, because this is the month to really contemplate that and maybe bring about a tangible change because of all this mutable dynamic energy of that Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Jupiter square configuration.
I think that's wonderful advice, and I think my only word of caution for our Taurus rising friends is, as we get to that Mars Jupiter conjunction, maybe don't overspend, go
Absolutely,
out and do too much.
I know. Yeah, it's interesting. Jupiter going through the second, people often think, oh, I'm going to be getting lots of money. But, in my experience, it's always that you spend lots of money.
I think one of my favorite natal charts is Mozart. I think he has Jupiter natally in his second, and he was notorious for overspending and spending everything that come through. But I mean, on the flip side, it could be an element of good luck in that area, but certainly with that Mars Jupiter conjunction, watch out for the overspending. And hope all the Taurus rising friends are doing well, because for a long time now, you've had that outer planet, you've had Uranus, depending where your ascendant degree is, hovering over there. So I hope you've all been doing well over this long period of Uranus going through the first house.
You're nearly there. You're nearly over it.
You're nearly there. You're nearly through. Absolutely wonderful. Fantastic. Okay, moving on to our Gemini rising friends. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, this is the sign of the month, I think. It's all happening here for Gemini risings. You've got Mars, Jupiter in the first. So lots of energy, lots of enterprise, lots of burnout potential too. So be really mindful of how you use your energy. And interestingly, that whole Aldebaran Mars conjunction here is in that first. And it will oppose the seventh house. Everything that's in the first obviously opposes the seventh house, where Antares will be, and often that's a very strong fixed star as well. So as you grow in power, so could your opponents or your enemies or your, so this whole month is really working out power dynamics, I think, between you and others. But at the same time, learning how to cultivate yourself so that you don't burn out, and you can actually use this energy towards something that is meaningful for you, that's going to build structures in your career or build joy in your home, and bringing major parts of your life together. It's an opportunity to really make something and to push yourself outside of the known areas to be able to create something that's worthwhile whilst you've got this Mars Jupiter energy here. I mean, if you're a sports person, it could mean that you come into some very close matches or close competition with your competitors, because that seventh house is our opponents. But overall, I think for Gemini risings, it's a time to be able to have some self-belief, like getting some strong sense of agency and confidence, that you can do this. Like, don't worry about what anyone said. Like, you can do this, and there is this idea of growth and confidence that comes about this whole month for you.
I absolutely love that advice. My key words for Gemini Rising this month was go big or go home. Of course, we've got the greater benefic transiting through your first house for the best part of the year. So, being bold, getting out there if you're restructuring your career. As she was saying, that could be, the flip of each coin for that Saturn going retrograde in the 10th. Obviously, you've had Neptune there for a while. And so I really love the advice you're giving, Shu. I'd maybe watch out for that Mars, depending what your ascendant degree is. And just keeping an eye out for, because Mars is going to be transiting through the rest of the month into those later degrees. So depending where your ascendant is, maybe watching it. It may be an extra rush in terms of, she was saying, if you're a sports person, this should be, maybe a great time if you're in the Olympics right now in France.
Right.
But also on the flip side of that Mars, watching out for maybe being a bit rash on the roads, or maybe some accidents that might happen. Again, not to scare people, but we know there's always challenges and benefits in anything that we're looking at. So watching out for that Mars. Obviously, you've always got to look at your own natal chart to see what's going on. But Shu, I absolutely love what you'll say. Any thoughts on the chart ruler that'll be going retrograde for Gemini Rising?
Yeah, well, this will be really important. Again, that Cazimi happening in that third house, joining with the sun. This is a good time to maybe initiate something or thinking about how you can upskill, or maybe it could be through a short trip or journey somewhere. But there's something to do with embodying your truth this month that will be really important. Walking the walk and talking the talk, essentially. Like, there's no good just talking about it. How are you going to live it? So thinking about how you bring it into your daily practices and routines, into your everyday life, learning and applying that learning, being really hands-on, is a good little 4-month project that you can take on with this huge energy that's coming your way.
I love that. Walking the walk, talking the talk, go big or go home. Do it, Gemini Rising. Well, on to our Cancer Rising friends. What are your thoughts, Shu?
Well, watch your back could be one. There's lots
I was thinking the same.
Yeah, right. Lots happening in the background, and it could be yourself that's causing some stresses and tensions. And this is the old, like, taking on too much, not able to say no. Mars and Jupiter in the 12th house. It's that idea of undoing yourself there, but it's not always a thing of projecting it to other people. It's owning, well, why am I in this situation? Well, maybe I didn't say no. I said yes to everything. I thought I had more capacity and more energy than I did. So just be really mindful. It might be a good time to retreat and use this powerful energy for your own self-development, for your own inner cultivation. And yeah, possible breakthroughs and success could be gained within your own mind or within yourself, as we're retreating. So maybe this dynamic energy for you could be reserved for yourself, like working on your own mindfulness projects or strategies and whatnot, things like that. In terms of where you could channel that energy towards, it could be maybe towards your livelihood issues, like how do you support yourself, money, possessions, all that second house stuff. Maybe part of that is actually discovering your own value in things, so that you don't sabotage yourself, so you don't um, uh, do everything for everyone. It's about realizing your worth and um, getting busy with stuff that matters, whether that's, work, earning, paying off your bills, earning money, sorting out your home, getting rid of things. Basically, adulting
Yeah.
is where it's at. Like growing up a little bit and taking responsibility for your own life, essentially. The other thing too is I feel with Venus moving into the third house and her focusing on that third house, the concept of learning will be highlighted there, because the third house is learning, and Venus potentially could be finding joy in that learning and application processes. But one thing you could be learning about is the importance of your stakeholders and the importance of friendships and allies, as Venus will be ruling your 11th house. So maybe consider combining your learning with, groups, or how important they are, what people could do for you to maybe take the load off you, so that you're not putting pressure on yourself and harming your own body with this big energy that's coming into your 12th house of self-undoing this month.
Wonderful advice. And I love that learning component you were talking about, as you've got Saturn transiting through the ninth as well, going retrograde. If you're involved in any higher education, or maybe you're in a time where you're in a structured, disciplined syllabus that you're working on, maybe that's going to come into play as well. Shu, I completely agree with what you said at the beginning of watch your back. And again, not to scare Cancer risings, but of course, we've got the malefic going through the 12th. So, maybe work has been cumbersome at this time, or maybe if there has been any issues in terms of career or working with others, just being mindful that there's no chitter chatter in the background, or people aren't undermining you at this particular time. Just keeping that in mind. But I love what you're saying, Shu, before about maybe taking that mental health retreat. So you've got the greater benefic transiting through the 12th for the best part of a year. And, we're in a Mercury ruled sign here. So if you need that mental break, if you need to go on that retreat and rejuvenate and to take, again, that mental break, I think this is going to be a great time to do that.
Absolutely, totally. And I like what you said about the, higher education as well, because that Saturn Jupiter square will be combining your studies and, your whole new meaning of life, essentially, that might have with some kind of, tangible structure. So it could be related back to 2020, end of 2020, when you might have sort of embarked on this idea of wanting to develop yourself in some way. This can be one of the signs of success, or tangible, like getting over a major hurdle and milestone of this cycle.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, into our Leo rising friends. It's your time. Shu, your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I think Leo risings have had a massive year. I mean, they're undergoing the Leo Venus cycle in Leo that started last August. So this is a huge self-development time for all of our Leo friends, our Leo rising friends, and we'll have most obviously the new Mercury cycle starting in Leo this month for you. And this is really a statement of yourself and who you are, apart from the other first house significations of like your health and your body. But more importantly, it's just really that self-belief, understanding who you are, making, it could be a big statement of, your own, pushing your own agenda and really getting it out there. Venus has been in that first house for you, so it's a really lovely time. Make the most of it at the start of this month of Venus first house things like maybe a makeover, or taking some photos of yourself, or doing that kind of image work is a really great time when Venus goes through that first house. And it will only do that every 18 months. So this is, like make the most of it for the last 5 days of August. But yeah, I think part of the idea of establishing yourself in the world is really mobilizing who it is you can trust out there in the world, who's actually going to help you. And that Jupiter Mars conjunction is going to be happening in that 11th house there. So this could be a month of maybe finding those people that you can trust and maybe cutting off those that you can't, that aren't going to bring along with you on the journey. I think this month will reveal that to you. There could be some tensions in social circles that could bring all of this about. And the other 11th house matter is just your aspirations. You may think about, what is actually going to work for you moving forward and what might not. You may feel very inspired about thinking about the future at the same time, as well as actually being able to mobilize and activate things that are going to bring you forward to your peak. So you've got all of this energy behind you this month, and it's a really lovely way to push yourself outside of your comfort zone and to make a statement about yourself, putting your feet forward. So honor your confidence and find yourself. And Venus will be moving through the second house for you this month as well, which will really get you in tune with what your own personal values are in yourself and in of others and what you're doing. So that can all feed back to, how you're going to present yourself to the world and how you're going to contribute to the larger world. Yeah.
I
What are your thoughts?
absolutely love that advice. You just tying on to what you're saying again. I don't think we need to tell Leo risings to be big and be bold, but I love what you're saying. Being you, shining out there, that self confidence that might shine through this month. Last month, obviously, we've had some of the planets transit through the 12th, and last month we were talking about maybe more of a retreat before it becomes your season. But of course, now your chart ruler going through the first house, seeing what their ascendant degree is. And of course, Venus has been going through there for a time as well. So, revigorating, getting out there, taking photos, maybe going for getting some new clothes and going for a spa day, getting yourself out, being bright and being bold. I love that. I love what you're saying about watching out for those groups, because we've got Mars that can separate. So it was interesting what you were saying about who's coming along with you on this journey and who isn't in this maybe larger group or sense of community. Who's going, because that Jupiter is going to be there for the best part of the year, but that Mars going through, who do you want to separate from? Who is your camaraderie? Who's going to take you on this journey as you go through? Absolutely wonderful. The only caution I think I might have with Leo Rising, of course, we've had Saturn going through your 8th house. It's now obviously retrograde, so probably not the best of times to go and seek loans if you're, running out of cash or you're wanting to seek loans. Maybe that's an element of caution there, possibly, but absolutely wonderful. I love that advice, Shu.
Sure. And lastly, just Pluto being right opposite the sun is, it's almost to me like there's a new you being revealed, and maybe it's a deeper sense of yourself coming out into the world, which will come out over the next 20 years more and more. But this feels like it's a real beginning of something for Leos there, where you can really stand up for your own beliefs, honor your own values about yourself, and don't get pulled down by any sort of disharmony that might be happening in social circles. Look at that as an omen for this new structure that's moving forward that you're creating right now.
Absolutely wonderful advice. Actually, I know a couple of Leo risings, and they've been telling me in the last couple of days, actually, some of the issues they've had where they've been going out to group activity meetings or neighborhood events, and things have been kicking off. And I'm like, wow, well, I think you've just explained it. What might be coming ahead as well.
Oh, great.
Okay, into our Virgo rising friends. What are your thoughts, Shu?
Virgo rising friends. Well, there is definitely that potential to launch yourself out into the world. Just be careful you don't ruffle too many feathers in this process. You know, Mars in the 10th can make it a very obvious signature of, you know, just maybe being too rash with what you're saying, or maybe blowing your own trumpet a bit too much. It can come across a bit strong sometimes, or it could be experienced through your superiors or bosses or the authorities, that, you know, their impact might be leaving your feathers a little ruffled. But nevertheless, this is an opportunity to step up to the challenge. And you do have a lot of energy there available to you at your disposal for short, sharp, tactical things, I must say, not a long-term thing. But yeah, just try to balance the overconfidence and possibly at some level laziness. You know, Jupiter in Gemini can show up as laziness, or you know, complacency sometimes, or thinking things are going to be okay when, you know, you really should be actually just, you know, getting on with it yourself, because no one else is going to do it for you. You know, so just having some sense of accountability about, you know, if you want to achieve something, the ball's in your court and you need to step up to the challenge, and show up to the world. And so, yeah, if you've got a short little project, or, you know, where you need to maybe reveal yourself, or, you know, say if you've got a bit of stage fright, or and you don't usually like to be that public, this is a time that you could have that level of confidence that will get you up there momentarily. I know Virgo risings do like to hide, but, you know, you do have Venus coming into your first house soon. So this is a great time for your self-image, to have a makeover, to maybe get some headshots done. So yeah, like, try to make the most of these benefics at your angles, because it is a time to let yourself shine in ways, and to receive some of the positive things that might be coming towards you. And yeah, where you could channel your energy towards is your own self-beliefs. You know, we've got that Mercury cycle starting with the sun in the 12th house. Areas where you have been sabotaging yourself, saying you're not good enough, or, you know, that there'll be other people that can do the job better than you and whatnot. And so those things that keep yourself small, you know, you could really use this month to try and alchemize that, and to turn it into something that's going to be more supportive for yourself. Okay, so your 4-month project will be to work on your self-confidence, essentially, and to work on your image, and, you know, how you're going to believe in yourself and to value yourself a lot more, so that you can take that step up in the world and be seen, hopefully for the right ways, if you can tone down that Mars energy.
Absolutely wonderful advice. And you really make a really good point in that self-confidence part. Excuse me. As we got in this chart here, we've got a preponderance of the planet above the horizon. So if you are striking violet, or you're not overly that confident, a lot of this energy and activity, apart from the 12th, is all out in the public anyway. So Shu, I love what you're saying about maybe developing that self-confidence, or being around. There's a lot of activity above the horizon, especially in the 10th. And as Shu was saying, as you get that Venus eventually coming through, depending where your ascendant degree is as well, which is going to be important, treating yourself, going out, maybe building that self-confidence, trying something different, maybe trying a new outfit, maybe, you know, pushing yourself out there. And if work is getting a little bit too much, and there's been a lot of activity there, because, I mean, we've got Jupiter there for the best part of the year, we've got Malefic running through for the rest of the month. If you do need to take a bit of a mini break, a mini mental health break, you know, don't be afraid to go and take a bit of rejuvenation, go and relax, go and pamper yourself maybe for a day or two, come back rejuvenated, and go out and meet the world again.
Totally. I totally agree.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, on to our Libra rising friends. Shu, what are your thoughts?
Well, Libra rising, I feel like this month is a bit of a calm before the storm. Like, you can use this month to really prepare and regroup, whilst the pressure's not particularly on you that much. And I'm saying that because we've got eclipses coming up, later in a couple of months that's going to ramp things up for you. So the way that you could prepare, I guess, is to just find some space to build some connection to your meaning in life, for your purpose, because when you've got eclipses coming your way, you question your purpose a lot. And these are those eclipse times is when you ask the big, like pondering thoughts, like, am I doing what I'm meant to be doing? Or the universe is generally showing what you're not meant to be doing and what you're meant to be doing. So I think it's time to regroup, invest some time into spiritual or grounding practices. If you're not that way inclined, maybe some learning or just reading about, different philosophies, or just whatever way you can do, whatever thing you can do to find connection and meaning, I think would be a really good use of this Jupiter Mars energy. Because there's a lot, when we spoke about the Aries before, there's a lot happening mentally for this month. All the activity happening in cadent houses can kind of show a level of unproductive, like not needing to be productive. Like, it's a time where you can stew over things. Maybe you're idling on a few things. So it's a good regrouping a month to be able to work out, okay, is what's in my daily routine? Like, incorporate some of these grounding practices into my daily life. It doesn't even have to be like a strenuous 2-hour meditation in the morning. It could be, whilst you're doing the dishes, try and think of some of these things, and just to say, like, every time I do the dishes, I'm going to be doing this. What you could also channel some energy around what you would like to do in the future, because all that Leo, the Mercury cazimi happening in Leo is all happening in that 11th house. So this is you planning for the future as to what you're going to do. What kinds of supports are you going to need? What inspires you about your future? Because support could be worrying you for this month, I feel. So, it's about, because Venus is moving into your 12th house, you're not going to be getting the support from your chart ruler. So, this is a time to just really think about these things and start preparing yourself now for the upcoming eclipses.
Absolutely. And Shu, you're describing me to a T. I'm Libra Rising, so I'm going to take all the advice you're giving right now because it very much applies. And I like that meditative part, or, being present or in the moment if you're washing the dishes, and taking some of that extra time, because I'm actually planning a short vacation at the end of August. As you mentioned, we've got our chart ruler moving into the 12th. So taking a bit of retreat, pulling back a little bit, just to, be grounded, be mindful. And as Stevie said the other month, we've got some air. We've got a breath of fresh air with the Jupiter and the Mars going through the 9th. Obviously, a great time, as Shu's been saying, to study, to read, and to maybe take some, points on board. And I think for us, and especially for me, I think I've mentioned this in the last couple of months, we've got Saturn, for me, it's my outer set malefic going through the 6th house. Now, I keep saying to myself, I'm going to redo my exercise regime, watch out for my health. I have not taken any advice that I gave myself. So I really need to stick with that for this month to, cut out the sugar, cut out the caffeine, make a new regime, a new routine as we go through this month. And of course, as we've had the South Node going through our 1st house, it can be a little bit draining, especially if it's going over that ascendant degree. So for me, Libra Rising, because I'm with you, I'm one of you, maybe keeping an eye out for those health issues as well, and doing a better job than I am doing right now.
Well, actually, it reminds me when Venus goes through the 12th, sometimes what could be sabotaging you are your desires, like, or your appetite, like, so curbing your appetite and desires is one way to get around. And that Venus coming into opposition with Saturn will definitely help. But yeah, definitely what you're saying, about travel being the way to find meaning as well is a good opportunity for Libra risings with Jupiter making that beautiful trine to your ascendant. Great time to travel, and I'm sure it's going to be a short holiday with Mars there, and lots of
So it's a great point about the appetite, because I'm a killer for chocolate, so I'll sit there with a cup of tea and dip in my chocolate. So I need to knock that on the head. But Shu, I love the advice, and I'm definitely going to be taking it on board this time.
Aren't we all? You're not alone there with the chocolate.
That's what I love about astrology. We can see what might be coming up, but do we always take on our own advice? Not always, but that's
the hard part. Oh God.
Okay, for our Scorpio Rising friends. So Shu, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Scorpio risings. I think this is a good opportunity to, if you haven't already with Jupiter going to the eighth, to come up with a new plan or action a plan on your finances. Get yourself closer towards financial freedom, if that's a possible thing, or maybe clearing some debt. And Mars moving in there could be the good severer of like debt for you with Jupiter there, wanting to be free. So I think that's a good opportunity for Scorpio risings to, look at all of your entanglements in life. What are you binded to? What are the politics that are holding you together? And it's time to kind of rip all of that apart this month. And it may reveal itself to you through, tensions in people and in finances and stuff coming to you. But be prepared for that, and be prepared that your response shouldn't be reactive towards that, but it's a good reminder to start to untangle yourself and to become more free, because Jupiter and Mars just like to have that free highway with no traffic on there, right? So they can go fast. So don't try and get too caught up mentally with all of the politics. As another alternative measure, try to focus your energy on that 10th house area, beginning something new around your career, or the way you'd like to contribute to the world, or your reputations. Think of that 4-month project as being around that visibility. It is a very visible month for you. I don't think you can hide as well as what you're used to, the Scorpio risings. And it can reveal a lot of some of your deeper vulnerabilities coming up with that Sun Pluto opposition on those angular houses. So, and some deep truths about yourself might come up, and this is that big lesson of revealing vulnerability in order to strengthen and deepen your connections with others in the world. It's not a point of weakness. In fact, it's a point of strength to be able to share some of these deep vulnerabilities, which you may struggle with usually. So maybe this could be that 4-month challenge to be more authentically present with people, especially out there with the world, being able to say to your bosses and whatnot, like, actually, I don't think I'm up to that. I don't think I have the capacity. And you may get more respect for that than to take on everything and then get really resentful about it. So yeah.
That's absolutely wonderful advice. And you make a really great point about that visibility. I mean, maybe not the place the Scorpio risings always want to be, but you have that activity, you have the preponderance of the planets above the horizon. Whether you like it or not, these are areas where there's visibility. So I love Shu, I love the advice you're giving, and just to be mindful of that, maybe focusing on that 10th house, as you've been mentioning. Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. And you'll also have Venus moving through your 11th house. So this month is a good time to be able to reach out to people. Like, don't think you need to do everything on your own. And I know Scorpio risings are very resourceful people, but, from time to time, doing things with a group is going to just lighten the load, especially the emotional and mental load for you. So don't be afraid to reach out and build some deep connections where you can share your vulnerability in a safe space. And just to become more powerful than you already are.
Wonderful. I love it. For our Sagittarius rising friends. So Shu, what are your thoughts for our Sagittarian rising friends?
Oh, well, Sag people, yeah, I feel like they've had a bit of a funny year, like especially with Jupiter moving into the seventh. You would think this since June, like things would have improved in relationship life or with other people, but it is the ruler of your chart being in the opposing sign and its detriment sign. So really disorientating when it comes to relationships, I feel, for the Sagittarius risings. But with Mars now activating that Jupiter in Gemini, I think this is kind of like a bit of a test in relationships, whether it's platonic or business or any kind of one-on-one relationships, or whether that's in competition of some sorts. But really starting to experience maybe different opinions that might really hit to a core in some way. But I think, yeah, that whole relationship area is a big theme for the month as Mars is activating that. Maybe needing to really try something new or restart something, or step outside the box and reinvigorate maybe a relationship with Mars kind of moving through there. Although Mars in the seventh can sometimes be difficult. It's a time where you can find the actions and influence of others quite hurtful or a bit coming on too strong. And so, yeah, just it might be worth to channel your energy into finding the higher meaning in things, because that Leo, all that activity happening in Leo is going to be in the ninth house. So the ninth house is, how you can transcend through some kind of reestablishing a new meaning or higher purpose in things, being that bigger person. I think that could be a good way to get around it. And, it's learning lots about yourself. The sun is currently in the ninth house and it's joy, and it's making that trine to you to your ascendant sign. So this is a good month for really soul searching and finding new insights about yourself through the experiences of tensions and relationships, perhaps, which might be reinvigorating new structures that need to occur with home life and relationship life, or your inner thoughts and how that responds to other people. And then, of course, Venus moving through your 10th is a positive thing for you if you have a career, or, in terms of your social standing or your reputation. It's a great way to be valued, I feel, and to come into that that what you do is actually seen and acknowledged and valued by people outside of you. So, yeah, what about your thoughts, Callum?
That's really wonderful advice, and it's really interesting you were touching on maybe some of that tension in relationships. And I will apologize to my Sagittarius rising friend, because for the last, I don't know how long now, he's been saying to me, when are you coming out? When are we going to go do this? When are we going to do that? And I've been so busy, and well, I've not been doing great with my health anyway, in terms of paying attention to diet and all the rest of it. So after I've been working, I've just been either sitting on the couch and doing nothing. So I feel if he's watching this now, I will apologize to my Sagittarius rising friend, because he keeps asking me, when are you going to do this? When are you come out? And I keep having to say, I'm sorry, I'm busy. I'm doing this, that, and the other. So I'm probably frustrating him right now as a friendship for my Sagittarius rising friend. So I do profusely apologize, but it's quite interesting that you honed in on maybe some of those issues in relationships there.
Yeah, maybe our advice for our Sag rising friends is don't take it personal. It's them, it's not you.
Do you know what? That's a great point. It is. It's me. It's not you, my Sagittarius rising friend. So yeah, and I love the advice you're talking about. We've got the sun, joy going through the night. We've got Venus up there as well, and just taking those other parts of advice. Absolutely.
Yeah, just be the bigger person. They're the ones with the issues. Don't let them
I've got the
project onto
issues,
you.
not you. There you go. Absolutely. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, on to our Capricorn rising friends. Your thoughts, Shu?
Capricorn risings. Well, Work is the continual thing. The Capricorn rising folks might have been experiencing a little bit more, flow and joy in terms of their daily work, life, with Jupiter going through the sixth. And that's probably a very good thing for a Jupiter Capricorn rising because, I know they all like to bury themselves in work. But I feel like when Mars activates that Jupiter, one thing you need to be on top of is your mental health. Managing your anxiety and stress as well is a big topic for the month. Mars going through there could be just pushing it too far, taking on way too much, and not letting yourself rest. Mars does like to be in the sixth, but the sixth house doesn't like to rest and will cause eventual issues. So just be mindful of how much work you're taking on, where the boundaries are in terms of your working life, and start organizing yourself a little bit better, so that you can streamline some of your workflows. The sixth house is all about processes. Jupiter is going to be making that square to Saturn in the third. So it's a great time to reorganize, to set up some structures. And this could be a 10-month project for you, to work out ways in which you can streamline so that your everyday life flows a little bit better. And maybe Mars is that rocket to get you fired up to do this task that you might have been putting on for a long time. Maybe it's cleaning out the shed so that it's more organized, cleaning out your workspace or your desk, that kind of thing. Because the hard thing for the Capricorn risings right now is to actually think of what that bigger picture is, to think, pull yourself out of that everyday grind and to think, I'm doing this because of some bigger plan. And so you need to revisit that bigger plan and then work backwards to see what you actually need to do so that you can put your efforts into the right places of work, rather than just working and thinking that you're doing the right thing just because you're working, because often you could be undoing yourself by all of that.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I have nothing to say. You go on.
No, I love the connections you're making here because, of course, Capricorn Rising, you're always going to work hard. But I love what you're saying, pretty much not biting off more than you can chew or taking on that extra work and looking at the vision as well, as you're saying, Shu. Where is that going to lead? Not just the not to be or taking on extra work because it's being given to you. Where is that going to lead you ultimately? Is it going to be fruitful in the end? With the sixth and the third house, we've got a connection here. Of course, we're going to have, as Shu have said, you've got the Jupiter Saturn square that's coming up, Mars later on in the month as well. But we've got that Jupiter rule in the third. So we've got this third sixth connection here and communicating these values. You've got the chart rule in the third as well, retrograde. So again, if it's taking on too much or overextending yourself, I think just saying, to your supervisors or bosses, when's enough is enough, and just to keep those boundaries as solid as possible. I know, Saturn, immutable water, not maybe the best place for boundaries, but just finding that place to say enough is enough, or again, making those boundaries to say no and to take on what you can handle as well.
Absolutely. Because don't forget, Jupiter is the ruler of your 12th, of self-sabotage and self-undoing. So without having any boundaries there, you could just be making it really hard for yourself unnecessarily. So, work is work, and work is not just work. Like, you've got to really channel, not just create work for the sake of doing it, but actually work out what's the best use of my energy right now, because I could be really powerful, I could be really dynamic, but not if I'm just going around in circles and being busy for the sake of being busy. The other thing too, I feel that for Capricorn risings, this is a great time to start a 4-month focus on your financial affairs, like getting organized there, getting all of your entanglements and your binds all organized. Things like your taxes, your superannuation, your wills, how prepared are you in that area of life? And if not, this is a good time to focus on that whilst you've got Mercury starting its new 4-month journey there. So yeah, and ultimately, get a good book to use up this excess energy that you've got, this excess mental energy, because Venus will be going through the night. So enjoy some kind of exploration, whether it's through a book, maybe it's through a trip somewhere. And all of this will just start to remind you of why you're doing what you're doing. Well, what is the greater meaning and purpose in life for you right now? So yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful advice for our Capricorn Rising friends. Okay, on to our Aquarius Rising friends.
Aquarius Risings. Well, one thing, I'm an Aquarius Rising, so one
I was
thing
going to say, I don't know if you wanted to share that, but I was like, this is advice for yourself, Shu.
Advice for myself. Well, for me, I mean, I've got children, so they have been really taking up a lot of my time, as in good time. Everything from managing their growth and making sure that they have everything they need to be able to do well in life, to things like going on ski trips and finding our speed together. And so that's been lots of fun, and I've got more ski trips coming up in August, so I'm looking forward to that Jupiter Mars energy.
Who wins out of you and the rest?
Definitely not me. I say wait till you're down the bottom, I'll catch up with you. But yeah, both Jupiter and Mars bring challenges as well as opportunities, and it's a great way to be able to alchemize those two concepts into the one thing. And I guess I've been doing that in terms of children and managing their affairs. But if you don't have children, it could be through a creative project. It could be a self-development project to do with understanding who you are and finding your purpose in life. And the 7th house is also really highlighted here. So it's really about engaging your partnership, learning how to work with people and work with a significant other towards these goals, especially these 5th house goals. Relationships will be continuing to be a major hotspot for you this month, especially with, the Mercury cycle starting there. And so think about what you can do to develop strong, sustainable partnerships over the next 4 months, which you can unfold. Venus moving through the 8th house as well could mean maybe partners' money might increase, or more debt could increase at the same time. So there's one of those benefics moving through the financial houses. It could go either way, but it's a good time to maybe look at what you do value and what you don't value, and make plans around those as well. Because right now with Pluto moving through your first, everything is intensified. You've got the on button on all the time. And so it's really important to be prepared as much as you can, in amongst all of this. But definitely finances is a theme for the year, as well as being activated this month. Venus opposite Saturn could show that you might need to tighten the belt, across your finances a lot more. So any of your thoughts there, Callum?
Well advised. As you were speaking, I just couldn't help but thinking of that 5th house activity, and what's more, outstanding there of sports with children and going out and skiing. I just absolutely love that. Amazing. And of course, depending on what your ascendant degree as well, maybe some extra buoyancy. Jupiter transiting through the 5th for the best part of the year. Mars is going to be transiting for the rest of the month. So again, as Shu has been saying, whether that's sports and activity, if you've got children as well, maybe some fun times, that's going to be fantastic. Interesting what you've been saying about the finance component. Of course, you've had Saturn in the 2nd for a while now as well. And of course, we're retrograde there. So either maybe if you're restructuring your finances or maybe tightening the belt, that seems to be a theme that's been going on for a while now. And of course, as you're saying, Shu, as that Venus travels along as well, maybe that the axis of the 2nd, 8th comes into prominence. So mindful of, financial well-being, partners, shared resources, all of those kind of themes that might pop as well. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's not, yeah, it's not, it's one of the, yeah, I just don't feel the Aquarius risings are, besides that sort of fifth house stuff, it could be a bit more challenging, I feel like, just with the activations across the financial axis. I feel that could be so a bit stressful for some people that have this rising sign, especially given the state of the world and the uncertainty that's happening all around, being brought up by mutable angles on the financial axis. So, but anyway, we'll see what pans out. Well, I shouldn't be spending too much money on skiing, but unfortunately, it's committed. I will tell you next time how that all went.
So keep an eye on finances, but have some fun as well. You can do both.
Yes.
Wonderful, yeah. Wonderful. Okay, and last but not least, on to our Pisces rising friend. So, Shu, your thoughts?
Yeah, Pisces rising. I feel like there's a bit of headway that could be gained around your emotional inner worlds, or maybe it's through the home life. But I feel that, there's lots that you could be doing at home if you can keep up the discipline and the lack of and not submit to complacency and procrastination. I feel that you could like really, I don't know, clean out your home, or give it a bit of a makeover, or do something around the home with that Jupiter Mars conjunction going through there. So things that you've been leaving off and procrastinating for a long time, use that Jupiter Mars to, get yourself going. And yeah, possibly some tensions in the household, or dramatic, big, loud sort of arguments and stuff. But I don't think it's anything that's too long lasting. It's this kind of Mars energy can kind of bring about some strong outbursts and, things said without much consideration and whatnot. So like before, it's not you, it's them. So don't take things personally. Yeah, it's don't react to it, but maybe put your energy more towards your work. Head down, bum up, build some discipline and resilience into your life. Have some daily routines that you can depend on. Not look at them as a chore, but look at them as ways to occupy your mind and to find meaning in, your everyday life. It's a good goal to work towards, like to build that resilience in your daily routines. And yes, Venus moving into the 7th house is, a lovely way to be able to spend with one-on-one friendships and relationships. Being able to find connection there is also a good thing this month. So, but yeah, I feel like this is such a month to activate this sense of discipline and order, which you've had with Saturn moving through your 1st house. But this month sort of activates all of that with the benefics and the malefics kind of congregating at all your angles. Like, what's your big plan? And let's all sit down and work together. We're not all going to agree, but together something productive can happen. But you've got to pull your part of the weight, which is actually, just having some discipline and focusing on what your service and work is as part of that whole configuration.
Such wonderful advice. And I know for some of my Pisces rising friends, it's been a bit of a rough ride recently. As you've been mentioning, Shu, we've got the 2 malefics and angular houses. We've had that Saturn transiting through the 1st. Of course, we've got Neptune there's been there for God knows how long. And so maybe some of that conflict, maybe some of that tension. But I love the advice you're giving, Shu, there of restructuring or and having those outlets to do that. I think is a really great advice. And of course, with Pisces rising, a preponderance of these planets are below the horizon for you. So a lot of this activity is underneath, is the under the horizon. We're in the private life here. been a lot of activity there, whether it's development on the self or others in the immediate environment. So a lot has been going on in this realm, depending on what's going on with your natal chart as well. But Shu, I think, is excellent advice for Pisces Rising, because I know for a few of my friends, it's been a bit of a rough ride recently.
Yeah, and look, that rough ride, the more we can manage this now by really focusing on work, I think head down, bum up, the better you're going to fare, because we do have the first eclipse coming in Pisces in September, October this year. So, dynamic energy and tensions and intensity is coming your way. So the more you can prepare by actually being dutiful and working on foundations, working on your work ethic and your boundaries, it's going to hold you in better stead for the eclipse seasons coming up for you.
Thank you, Shu, so much for going through this August forecasters with us today. Absolutely love your advice, and thank you for sharing your wisdom and your tips. And for everybody watching, some people may have watched you before in previous episodes, but for the people who haven't seen you before, can you explain some of your work that you do and how people can find you?
Sure. I'm a teacher and a consulting astrologer from Australia, and I'm the teacher and tutor of the Solar Returns course that's run at KeplerCollege. So we run that course twice a year, in winter and in summer. It's a 5-week course. So yeah, we're currently finishing off I think it's a summer course for you guys over in America, and we'll start the next one in 6 months' time. So if you're interested in studying solar returns, definitely check out that course. It's very comprehensive. Apart from that, my consultations, I'm always open for bookings, and the best way to really keep up with my work is through signing up to my weekly news, because I list all of my events and teachings and webinars and whatnot through there. I'm less and less on social media now, so the more reliable way to keep in touch with my work is by signing up at my website, which probably will be at the description below.
Absolutely wonderful. As you say, Shu, I'll put those links in the description and the comment boxes below. And I will say our students absolutely love your solar returns courses. So if you guys want to check out the next one, when's it going to be again? Is it just once a year? Did you say?
Twice a year. So I think it'll be around January. I think it'll be in January next year. Yeah, we're finishing off this one now. But I might mention, I do also have my own, it's called the Third House Studio. A third house, because it's all about practical application and hands-on work on dissecting charts and putting our theories into practice, essentially. And that studio is opening for a 6-month container starting October. It's a once a month where we come together and do things together, chart readings. It's all real life clients, real life feedback, that kind of thing. So it's really suitable for people that are intermediate, that are starting to think about doing professional consultations, that just need that little bit of support and hand holding. So if you're in that phase of wanting to step up and step out into professional consultations, that you feel you just need more support with your confidence, this could be a good option for you. So that's all available on my website, the details there.
Wow, that sounds so exciting. What a great resource for people if they're just at that cusp of maybe wanting to turn professional and get that extra support and go through that. That's absolutely amazing.
It's everything I wish I had, in my career. So I've put it all together into one kind of package, and it's very affordable. It's a monthly thing for 6 months, and I give you little challenges and homework to do along the way. It's a studio space. It's an online studio space where we have chart reading jams and we grow together, and it's just having that discussion with other astrologers, that high level discussion, which is what I love. And that connection with fellow astrologers that can be ongoing supports for each other as you grow into your careers. So, come join me at the Third House Studio.
That's absolutely amazing. Now, is that a separate link I can include, or is that part of linking to the website?
It'll be in the website. I can give you the direct link if you required to. So
wonderful. I think that's such an amazing endeavor and so important for astrology. Like I say, people probably wish they had that, maybe professional astrologers now. So that's such a wonderful service that you're giving. Wonderful.
Excellent. Yeah, it is. It's great. So thank you for having me. And it's always a pleasure to come on and have a chat with you.
Absolutely love it. Thank you so much. And what a great episode. And thank you all for watching. And we'll see you next month. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.